Hey, I'm so happy to introduce you to my friend Kelly West. Hi, I'm Naomi Light, I'm a life coach, and on this week's episode I'm sharing a conversation I had with the very lovely Kelly West. Kelly is a good friend of mine, and between her and her husband James, they raise 5 children and run 3 businesses. So Kelly knows a thing or two about finding balance amidst conflicting priorities. In this conversation, we talked about how she manages her time, about co-running a business with your other half, and about how to avoid the dreaded mummy guilt that comes with being spread too thin. She shares her story about how she got to where she is, about waking up in a marriage that she wasn't happy with, and about how her and James have found love and partnership. I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I did having it. First question. What is it that you do? Who are you?
Perfect. Right. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me, Naomi. This is a great opportunity to obviously to speak to some of your viewers. So thank you for that. I'm Kelly West and I run 3 businesses at the moment. So my first business I run with my husband, James, and that's Clean Slate Websites. We're website builders, Squarespace authorised trainers, and that's pretty straightforward. Second business is Kelly Louise West, and I mentor and coach my clients. And that tends to be clients that I've worked with on a website. I'll help them with challenges that they're facing, because I kind of get into my clients' heads when I work with them on a website, and we talk about their businesses in a bigger scale and any challenges or things that they're facing, particularly if they work on their own. It can be quite a lonely place. So I mentor them through next stages and where to go. And then probably our biggest growing business at the moment is Only Networking, which we launched just over a year ago now. And that's networking groups across Hampshire. And we do that, James and I do that together with our business partner, Kat.
Yeah, which is where we got to know each other.
It is where we,
wasn't it? So
yeah.
That very first Only Breakfast for you was my very first networking event when
Was it
I had just
really?
launched. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was kind of born in the Only Networking
family.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys have provided a really safe, nurturing, encouraging, honest, like none of the kind of schlurb that comes with oh, we're in business, just like people who've got valuable services and products who are talking normally about their stuff. So that was great for me that you guys were there, and that I kind of learned a lot and took my first baby steps. Really, I was being brave and going, I've got something to share too. So that was a great way to get to know you. So so how did you your own business mentoring, like how did you think of being a mentor? I mean, like, do people ask you to be mentors, or did you just decide I'm going to be a mentor?
I think it's, especially nowadays, there's lots of coaches, mentors popping up in all kind of different categories. Could be spiritual, could be business related, coaching. And I'm by no means a business coach in the terms that I'm not trained to a level of coaching. So I don't class myself as a coach. I am a mentor, more of a business friend. I've set up numerous businesses. I've worked in the corporate world. Oh God, I've made mistakes. I've made good decisions, and I can spot things from a mile off now because I've been able to go through those processes. So it was probably a year ago, well, probably 18 months ago, a couple of my clients just asked me for that service. By pure luck, we were looking at their website and working out what the strategy was and what the proposal to their kind of viewers was. And it got more in depth. And it, the flip chart comes out and the brain dump goes onto the table, and then it kind of evolved from there. So, and again, I think if you're working on your own or if you're in a small business, it can be very lonely, and to get somebody else's outside view of what you're doing, it's really valuable. It can quite often be very common sense, but they're quite often the hardest decisions to make, and to be able to run it by somebody that's impartial and kind of out of your sort of little sphere is really valuable, and that's where it was born.
So do you find that in your business mentoring of other solo entrepreneurs or people who've started small businesses, is there some things that you're saying regularly? Like, do you have a kind of, signature advice or things that you say that you would, for my clients who are watching, who are maybe thinking of starting their own business, the advice that you'd give them?
Okay, that's probably well timed. It's probably stop thinking and more doing. That is very much my strategy and my ethos. I think we all spend a lot of time thinking about what we're going to do, and we can skew our view of what that's going to be. It's a big step, it's hard, but get on and do it. Move it to the next step. Even that is just thinking, putting it on paper, moving it from the paper to the next level. That's it. Let's push it on to that next step. And what I don't do is I don't give my clients lots of homework, because we are all very busy. And I learned very early on that by giving homework and goals and tasks to do, we just create more clutter and more chaos. So we use the time that we work together to work on specific elements. So it might be that they want to launch a social media campaign, but they've never used Instagram. So we'll sit and we'll use Instagram for half an hour, and we'll get the basics. And again, I don't pretend to be an expert in every field. Within my web design business, obviously I do things like social media, but there's always experts that can help if we need to go to the next level of what I can provide with them.
Yeah. But actually a lot of people are, and I don't do business coaching, but a lot of people are overwhelmed with the expectation that's on small businesses, to be on social media and to have a presence and to have compelling messages and, a feed that looks beautiful. Where do you start with talking to somebody about their social media?
It very much depends on your industry. If you're an interior designer, then it would make sense for you to use Instagram, because it's very aesthetic and it's a good way to showcase your products. If you're a coach, it would probably make sense for you to use Facebook, because you can get your message across. I think probably the key piece of information for my clients is don't get overwhelmed and don't feel like you have to use them all. It's better to use one platform consistently well, and to see a marked improvement, and to be able to record that, track it, and improve that system, than it is to spread across all of them. I think Twitter seems to be the one that, particularly for many of my clients, they do because they feel they have to. So don't do it. If it's not there, you don't have to think about it, and it's just one less thing on the to-do list, because the worst thing you can do is just scattergun a message across different platforms. That is something we definitely use them all to their strengths, and use a different message to each platform is absolutely the way we would push people.
But don't let it get you overwhelmed, because it starts to undermine actually everything else that you're doing.
Absolutely. And stick to what you're good at. As business owners, we don't have to do all of those things. So if it is a case of doing little but consistently, even if you only do it once a month, but you've got that consistent goal, or I'm going to post once a month, that's fine. If you see a bigger need for it, bring somebody in to help you. That's, play to your strengths.
And talking about kind of focus, and you're running 3 or 2.5 businesses at the moment, plus you have family. Do you have any thoughts on kind of how to balance that, how to kind of hold the tension between perhaps different businesses you're involved in, or different hats that you wear? How does that work for you?
It's hard. It is hard, because depending on which business you come from, somebody will know you for that particular business, and it can be quite confusing for people to go, oh, hang on a minute, she's a web designer, oh no, she's not, she's a mentor. So why I launched Kelly Louise West, because I could finally be me, and my website could show that I've got 3 different strands. So yes, I run 3 different businesses, but they're all very much part of me, and that's kind of the overarching umbrella for my message. It's hard. Yes, of course it's hard. You're a mum as well, Naomi, and you appreciate that. It's about juggling, but doing it successfully and not being a busy fool. We hear that term all the time, but using the time when the bus goes at 8 o'clock in the morning. I know I've got till 4 o'clock to get the majority of that work done, so I'll schedule the bits that I can dip in and out of to do after that time. I try not to work in the evenings and weekends if I can help it, but again, I worked for myself so I could be flexible. And if to do it, I have to do it. It's It's tricky and it's tough, but again, I've kind of got to a stage now where I don't have enough hours in the day to be able to do it all myself, and I'd be stupid to think that I do. So outsourcing again is kind of the next level, and realizing what you charge for an hourly rate. Am I best off doing the accounts? No, I'm probably not, because I can outsource that to somebody. And actually, I'm making money.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Finding those little ways to leverage time that we do have, and also knowing that we can get somebody else to do it, which I think is such a challenge. So I struggle with that.
Hard to let go, especially when you've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, you always think nobody's going to do it as good as me. Actually, sometimes
maybe better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So could we just scroll back a little bit, because you kind of told us about the last 3 or 4 years of starting I know it's actually more than 3, but different businesses. What's happened before that? Do you have a previous life, or how did you get to, oh, I know, I'll start a business?
My family always joke, because I'd had quite a few jobs. I'd never really settled very quickly on what it was I wanted to do. So at school, my passion was design, and I wanted to be an interior designer, but my grades were too good, and I was pushed down the law angle, which probably not many people know this. Studied law, worked in the magistrates courts in Southampton, and loved it. Thought that's where I was going to be, but fell pregnant with my first daughter and had her when I was 20. So I left, and I became a beautician, of all things, because I could work around the children, and crazily enough was probably at the height of my career in earnings wise, because it worked around when I wanted it to. I rented a space in a salon, and it absolutely worked with my lifestyle. It wasn't for me. It was never going to be something I wanted to do forever. It was a money earner. Still do the odd treatment for friends and family now, which is lovely, but that is way in the past. And from there I moved into travel. I worked for Thomas Cook for 12 years. I ended up in head office with them at Peterborough, and was an MVQ assessor for their apprentices, but was on the road a lot. I could be doing 300 miles a day sometimes, and with a young family that didn't work. So I moved to travel counsellors, which gave me my love of travel, and I got to work for myself. And then, as things can happen, middle-aged, got divorced, life changed completely. Met my husband James, and with a complete lifestyle change came a complete career change. Taught myself how to use Squarespace. I've become an authorised trainer for them, and our businesses are just flying, because for me, I talk about business and lifestyle when I mentor my clients, and it's very easy for me to see now why I was never successful, because I was never happy in my life. I'd settled, and I thought that that's what life should be. And now that I've got to the place I know I was meant to be, I can understand that. And it very much is, one supports the other, pushes the other, relieves the other, and it goes up like this. So yeah, but business, people talk about business and lifestyle balance all the time, but it is very, very important.
Yeah, so I was hoping to head kind of down this route, because I am really interested in what you think of, having been somebody who I know has tried different things, and likes to wear different hats.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in terms of knowing that you've got a good fit, that your business, you talk about business and lifestyle, let's just focus on business for a moment, we come back to lifestyle, that your business is where you should be, it's bringing you alive, it's sustainable, or actually is sustainability not the thing? Like should we be wanting to have the multiple stream income and move around a lot and try different things? Just any thoughts you've got on all of that?
Great question. Yeah, and I would absolutely agree with that. I don't think it's a bad thing, wearing many hats, as long as you wear them well. Why not? I can remember I met James at a networking event. That's how we got together. And at that particular group, I think within a year, I'd been a travel counsellor, an interior designer, because I'd gone back to uni as a mature student and I was learning that. And then I was a web designer, and I was like, I'm going to have to leave, because they're just going to think that I'm crazy. They're not going to take me seriously.
This woman's a little bit schizophrenic. She has a different job every week.
Absolutely, but it kind of went the other way for me, because whatever I did, I threw my all into it, and I was passionate to the end, and I still am. a job shouldn't feel like a slog, I think. And if you're waking up in the morning thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm not perfect. We all get that to a degree. We all have challenges, and we all have times within any job that are not as easy as others. But I think if you can genuinely say you're enjoying what you do, you still like to learn more within your industry, because I don't know everything within Squarespace. I'm learning all the time. And it's a real pleasure. It's a pleasure to be in that place, and I enjoy talking about it to people as well. And I think the results come from that. I think it's confidence, particularly for me, has boosted sales. I'm absolutely confident in my product. I know what I'm selling. I know where my target audience is, and I've stopped trying to be something for everyone, because at that point you're hitting and hoping. You're just chucking your message out there, and you're just waiting for somebody to run and pick it up. Yeah. Whereas now I know where I need to go to find my clients.
Yeah. And that confidence, which I think I hear all the time, like it is like the foundation for service. Does that confidence, how do you arrive at that, or how do you grow that in your?
That's a really tricky one. I think there is an element of education. I think if you're pretending to know your game, that shows very quickly. You know, I would say, well, I've probably built 115 websites in about 18 months, and I'm sure when on day one I wouldn't be portraying the kind of character that I do now, because I was still learning. But it's having that interaction with people, being able to talk to peers, and we talk about collaboration over competition all the time, and what's really important for me is to be within the circles of other web designers and hearing their thoughts, and you know what they're having troubles with. And there's a couple of designers within the area that we're constantly passing business between each other, and that helps with confidence, because if you can safely say, well, there's somebody else in my industry that is actually quite happy to pass me referrals rather than do it themselves. It could be sometimes that it's something they don't want to do, of course, but that might just be a personality clash with the client. And actually I've had that many times, and I've got on really well with them. You know, somebody that works with me might not want to work with you, Naomi, and vice versa. So it's absolutely important to have a bank of people that you can go to. And particularly if you're busy. I mean, we're incredibly busy building websites at the moment. So for us, it's lovely to know that we can send them to these other places where they'll be looked after just as much.
Yeah, brilliant. And look, we talked a little bit about business then, and how you grow the confidence to do what you do really well and kind of get people on board. So how does that sit alongside lifestyle for you? Because one of the things you do for clients is enable them to have the kind of lifestyle that they've dreamed of alongside the business. So if you've got any sort of principles or things that you share with people about creating a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite open where I sit within my family life. Although I very rarely talk about my family. James and I have 5 children between us, so and they range from 18 to 11. So we're kind of out the other end now, so it's getting a bit easier. It's tricky, but at some point you have to decide, am I a mum? Am I a career woman? Or actually, am I both? And I am both. And I love my children dearly, but I am also a career woman. And I'm sure some people will disagree with this, but between my working hours, my job is what I'm doing. Unfortunately, because the job is busy, sometimes when the children are around, some of their time is taken up by career. But I wouldn't change my life for anything. And I think it's really hard for women to be able to say, I love my children dearly, but I've got a life too.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's probably what I'm alluding to. I'm maybe selfish. I don't know what kind of the viewers will think, but I think it's really refreshing when you can be open and honest enough to say, I need to drive this forward, because ultimately I'm driving it forward for them as well.
Yes.
And I want them to be part of that journey with me, and I want to try to provide for them. And when I can, I will absolutely give them the time that they need and deserve.
Yeah.
But my career is extremely important to me.
Yeah. And I think I mean, that was lovely and kind of vulnerable for you to sort of share a little bit the struggle, because I think what you are expressing is common. And I don't know a mum, whether they've decided that they're going to have a career alongside having kids or not, that doesn't feel the tension and the pull of both things are important and both things are a full-time job and some. And so there needs to be a blend, and there needs to be kind of flux in the middle, and I think by definition that place has tension, and it's kind of a bit awkward, and
there's no barriers, there's no ideal, you know, at 4 o'clock it changes to, it doesn't, it's different every day. And you know, I'm lucky because my children are a bit older, but you know, I went back to work when my firstborn was 3 weeks old. I had to, because I had to pay the bills. So I do think if you're lucky enough to be able to stay at home with the children and that pressure to earn the money isn't there, then that's wonderful. You know, don't get me wrong, we'd all love to be able to be in that position. But I think particularly for me, I was 20, had a newborn baby, and I needed to earn money. So I've probably just conditioned myself that actually career is quite important. And I think the kids react really well to that as well. You know, my youngest was working at 14, and my eldest, was working at 14. She continuously worked through kind of later stages of school and college. And yeah, she's got a really good career ahead on her as well. So it follows through.
Yeah, because I think what you are able to give your children in working out that tension is, well, this is what it looks like to be me and to express the fullness of Kelly. I wrote a post about this, about self-actualization, this kind of idea that you're not holding back, and therefore by extension modeling that for your kids, kind of saying, you know, live life not to the full, live life in kind of a limited way, which, I mean, it is just, you know, we're obviously going to pass on to our kids all our best bits and our worst bits, but you know, if I could say something to a mum who was thinking about it, I'd be like, follow your heart, and whatever you're going to do it with confidence, with both feet in, because what that models then to your kids is, I backed myself up. I took a risk on myself, you know, I had a go, I tried. And I think they are much better conditioned to be able to you know, to roll with the tension in the middle if they see parents who are fully expressed, you know, and they see parents who are alive, and you know, life has lots of meaning, than if life is dulled, you know. And
absolutely,
yeah, and I think they sense that, don't they? And so you've done that for your girls. And
yeah, and I hope that was the right thing to do. You're never going to know, are you? But like you say, be confident in the choices you make. And I think also I'd say to people, don't be frightened to be what you want to be. You know, we've all stood at the school gates, haven't we, and had to listen to the mums that do all the baking, do all the picking up, and they sound like perfect mums, don't they? And I almost used to feel a little bit inadequate, and it took me a long time to realise actually my kids aren't dipping out. You know, they still get me, all of me, when they can have me, and we still provide for them, we still have family time, we still do all of those things. So it was probably only a couple of years ago that I felt really comfortable to be able to talk this way, and particularly a really good friend of mine, I said it to her, I've not known her very long, and she went, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Same. And it's almost like, oh, yeah. And it all falls out, doesn't it? Because there is a pressure. There is definitely a pressure for us to be something that sometimes we're just not to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing when my youngest was very small, somebody say that guilt comes with the territory of motherhood. I was kind of horrified at the idea. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not feeling guilty. But then I just have heard that repeated so many times from the mums who bake a lot, you know, and stay at home. They're like, oh, I kind of feel guilty because I'm not, you know, pursuing the career and modeling that for my kids. And then the mums who do both, and the mums who are out at work all the time. And I know that what's helped me and watching other mums is to talk about it and like to name the guilt and be like, I do feel like my career is missing out, or I'm missing out on a career, and I don't like that. So I'm dealing with it. It's not perfect, and to kind of name it, not to just sit there and think, well, it's all right for them.
Yeah,
which is what you're doing great on this, on this interview.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's really important to me. I do strongly believe you need to be authentic. That backs up your confidence. That backs up your message. You know, it's been a long, hard slog to try and get to a point where, and you don't ever want to upset anybody, do you? I never want to have an opinion that's going to be so strong that it's going to offend somebody. That's not me at all. Yeah. But I do want to be able to feel comfortable, and this is who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. Yeah,
and to be honest and say, that's me, warts and all. Yeah. I struggle too. Hashtag me too. Which just slightly changed that a little bit. So on the theme of honesty, I know you've always said that you're really open, and you like to talk about your life, and you were in a season where you realized that you were unhappy, and that realization led to all of what you know is your life now. Do you have, like, for anybody who maybe has realized that for themselves, or has not yet come to the point of voicing, like, actually, I'm pretty miserable in my life right now, and I know that's an awkward thing to have to realize, and I'm going to need to make some changes. What helped you then? What would you say to somebody who's there?
I think it's hard to pinpoint it. I think when you're in that situation, I think a lot of time can go by before you actually even realise yourself that you're in that position. I think probably people around you would notice it before you. And I think I was probably in that camp. So my mum would always say to me, "Oh, you're all right, no, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm soldiering on." And I'd been married for 10 years, and it was fine. It was okay. I just resigned myself that he was an okay guy. It wasn't amazing like it used to be, but we had what we wanted. We got to go on holidays, and we had a nice life. So it was just fine. I wasn't in love with him. I didn't particularly want to be close to him, without going into too much detail. But again, that's okay. That's fine. And then it was literally meeting James that made me think, hang on a minute, I've got feelings that I don't feel in my normal life. So, and I didn't necessarily go about it the right way. James and I talked, and I was really open with him, and I'm like, look, I'm married. This is my situation. I was about to go on holiday. And he was great. He'd just come out of an 18-year relationship a few months before, so he was ready, but he understood that it would have a lot of sorting out. And again, with the children, I've never been one to make them go through things. My eldest daughter has different dad to my youngest daughter, so before my marriage, I was engaged to Kearney's dad, and that only lasted a couple of years. She was 2 when we split up, but we were the greatest of friends. He's godfather to my youngest. Life was just simple, and Kearney didn't suffer because we weren't arguing. We weren't living in a house where there was an atmosphere, which as she got older, she'd seen with me and my ex-husband. So it was just that, it was like a light bulb moment. I can remember sitting with James just thinking, oh my God, I've never felt like this. And then having to speak to my ex-husband and say, do you know what, it wasn't helping him either, because actually he was in the same place.
Of course. If you're miserable, then what you're going to be adding to his life is not going to be it's not going to be the best. So it was actually meeting James that almost awoke you from your slumber.
It was. I mean, I think, would I have got there in the end? Probably. I mean, who knows? I can't predict that. But it was meeting James and seeing, the way he was and how I felt when I was around him. And it still feels the same now, which, that never happened to me before. It really didn't. So people say, don't you know when it's right? And oh my God, absolutely. And we've been together 4 years, and we still say it feels like it did the first time we met. So, and we can talk for hours, and we are together 24/7. So our relationship has been through everything and more in the 4 years we've been together, because combining 2 families is a nightmare. keeping everybody happy is a nightmare. Dealing with divorce, house sales, etc. So it was hard, but
sure,
being able to have come through it relatively unscathed and in a great place,
yeah,
has helped us with the businesses, because actually in our life we're now at a place we want to be.
yeah,
We're putting the businesses into that structure too.
yeah. And is there anything that you've done very differently this time around with your relationship with James, that it has meant that you're 4 years in and there's chemistry? I work with both of you, so I see you together and there's synchronicity and there's dreams, and is it just a case of like it happens when we're together, or are there things, I'm sure it's not that easy but are there things that you've done very differently this time?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm quite a black and white person, and I used to struggle to see perspective from somebody else's point of view. I'd get in my own way quite a lot. Probably, again, looking back, it was easy because I'd say I wanted to do something, we did it. To be fair, not much different now, but the difference now is James wants to do the similar things to me. I think when we came into I can always remember him saying to me, I'm not going to treat you like a princess. And I was like, good, I don't want to be treated like a princess, because that turned me, I wasn't when we first got together with my ex, and then I ended up being a princess because that's the way I've been treated. And I think James will probably argue that he does treat me like a princess now, because he does. He really looks after me, but it's a mutual respect. We talk a lot about work. Obviously, we're in it all the time, but it's making sure that we're going out and do. We call it JK Adventures, so James and Kelly Adventures, and we'll get up at 6 on the Saturday morning, jump in the car, drive to London, walk around for an hour, drive home again. Silly things, we might finish work at 2 o'clock and think, oh, I want to get a new top, we'll drive to Westfield just to go and buy something silly. It's just trying to do things that just keep it fun. Not just walking down the road to get a meal or something like, which is equally lovely, but even this evening we might just sit and read a book, because actually that's lovely. And it's nice to be quiet, spend some time together, read a book and enjoy our company. It's not all roses, of course, we argue just like anybody else does, but I think for me it's about listening in those arguments and taking something away that's valuable. And James and I don't always agree on this, but I see arguments as a good thing. It's both of us learning about the other one and taking it forward to the next place.
Oh, they are really great thoughts and tips. I like the way you guys do seem to have, you spend a lot of time together, but the time that you have together there's different kinds of time. Like you talked about kind of fun things, but also relaxing things and kind of normal things, and having worked out a variety of ways that work for both of you, that you can share moments, create memories, create that sense of togetherness that keeps the vibrancy, it keeps it alive and doesn't make it samey and stuck.
No, it doesn't. And we take a ridiculous amount of pictures, which I think helps, because we, on your phone, you're always having a look at your pictures, and it just helps remind you, we can get bogged down in work sometimes, and we think, oh, well, we haven't had any time for ages, and then actually, we have. So I think it's easy to get caught in the negative sometimes. So, and it's just about bringing those positives through. So I think it helps because of our personalities, and there is a spark there to begin with. So, I think that's quite easy to see. But of course, all marriages need to work. Of course they do. Arrogant to say that they don't. Neither of us are perfect, and we both understand that too, which is great, because we be who we want to be. And I might annoy him sometimes, he might annoy me sometimes, but fundamentally that's minor stuff. Minor stuff.
And I really heard you say, and I'd love to actually be something I'd love to explore more on, on channels and resources about communication and conflict resolution, which I hear, over and over again in my coaching work, that if there's any way you're going to invest time and energy, it's on getting your communication really good and your processes for resolving conflict to work for you, because they do come up, these conflicts. They always do.
And we all know what pushes people's buttons, and that's something I don't do anymore. I know there's things I can say that will wind them up within an instant.
Yeah.
And then it will happen in reverse, and that's something I don't do anymore. You know, we've got one life. Let's not. I can have an argument, but I'm always, let's be a bit factual about what we're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
that's fine. You still argue about it, but
Yeah.
don't take it out of perspective.
Yeah. Can bring your adult in and be an adult about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So I've got another thought, which is, I know that you kind of look around for good resources. Do you have anything you're reading, watching, listening to at the moment?
Yeah.
Podcasts or YouTube channels, or that is inspiring you, that maybe other people could go and look up?
Do you know what? You've probably caught me at a time where I've had a complete total detox on all of this stuff.
Oh, deliberately?
Deliberately, yeah.
Ah.
Although I did read a blog this morning, which was put on the Only group from one of the members, and it did kind of really inspire me, and I shared it with some other people. That's probably the first time I've read a blog in a good month or so, because I think, again, it can get too noisy. And the 5 minutes that you're spending reading that blog, 10 minutes you're spending looking at that podcast, etc., adds up massively. I was talking to a coach yesterday, and he said you should be having a period of time where you're mapping out every 15 minutes. Just note down every 15 minutes what it is you're doing, tally it up at the end of the day, and I tell you what, it will surprise you where you can lose some time. It really will. But my go-to would probably be, I'm a huge fan of Laura Payne Stanley, so Money Mindset Mastery. She changed a lot of thoughts in my head just through having a coffee with her, and I'm very grateful. So she was right at the beginning of my journey. There's numerous people, yourself included, Naomi. You sent out an email the other day, and I forgot to email you to say, oh my God, small thing, massive difference.
Oh, cool. Great. Got that message. Thank you.
Brilliant.
I will... I'll link to Laura Payne Stanley's stuff in the show notes so people can follow that. She is a no-nonsense, clear thinker, especially about some of the stuff, I guess, that you talk about, which is about marketing and sales and how to think business strategy and stuff like that. And I'm interested, actually, in some ways, it's funny that your answer to my "have you got resources" is I'm having a detox, because you kind of like counter to what we started talking about at the beginning. And I think it is so true that I think the most helpful human principles are almost best expressed in opposites. Like you do these things, you're like, hold on a second, they are completely opposite, but then actually they seem to be deeper because they're opposing.
Granted as well, don't you? I subscribe to lots of people's blogs and newsletters and things, but I do think it is really powerful to just take yourself away from it for a period of time, because when you go back in, I'm more active, so I'll comment more or I'll share more, because it's not just that noise that I'm seeing every day. I'm more open to the messaging because I've had a bit of a break. Yes.
And you think it is in all those spaces, like your coach talking about, note down the 15 minutes, the kind of liminal spaces, the spaces between things where you might not be doing anything, but probably your brain is churning over things, working things out, piecing things together, and you are thinking in a way that means you do come to things fresher. So maybe some of the takeaways is have a real audit of what you're listening to and looking at, and if it's not top-notch inspiring, create some space for non-input, like reflection or downtime or whatever.
And be clever with the times that you're looking at these things, because we do have subliminals. There's some great podcasts and things out there, but some of them can be quite dark sometimes, so that's not the sort of stuff that you want to be looking at or listening to before you go to bed, for example. And again, it's very obvious stuff, but power of the mind is, as you know, incredible. And I think creating a time and a place, as we're saying, for those different things is just so important. And I think particularly as I'm working on a project at the moment, some online courses, and what I don't want is to be seeing other people's stuff and just me then kind of tailoring my marketing or my message based on what they're putting out. And that's my main reason of kind of staying away when I'm getting something ready to broadcast. I try and keep out of it, because then I'm not being, mixed messages and things.
Yeah, which again is another one of those like contradictions, because quite often on these sort of interviews, we'll be enthusing with each other about, oh, you should read this, get inspired by that. But then I have recently discovered Seth Godin, who I think have you come across Seth Godin? Yeah. So like his marketing stuff, and I know I was listening to him being interviewed, and he says he's not on Instagram, he's not on Facebook, even though obviously he has feeds on these things, and he doesn't look at what other people are doing, because the temptation to just reinforce the same old stuff or be a copycat is too difficult to not just fit in the mold. And what makes an amazing business is the innovation, and is the kind of the distinction and the going against the grain and something fresh and novel.
Oh, absolutely. And it's almost that fear of missing out, isn't it? But if you don't know what's out there, it can't affect you, and it'd be great to think that Seth is not on those channels, but he's of a level where he doesn't need to personally.
Yes. I know.
Brilliant, isn't it?
We need to get there.
Maybe, you never know. But I do think there is something to be said in that. I mean, I personally don't look at Facebook on my personal account. I use it for my businesses, and obviously you have to see some of the feed before you go into what you need to get into. But that was just a decision for me, because I don't want to see all of those things, because there is a tendency to get sucked in, isn't there? And I like to be authentic, and I like to work in a space and be present in a space that is authentic.
Yes. Yeah. I talk about boundaries a lot, and this is the social media boundaries is something that we need to continually keep reminding ourselves of, because it's pervasive and it can kind of creep. We've just made the decision actually to not plug our phones in by our beds at night, because it can be the last thing you do at night and the first thing you do in the morning. Like, oh dear, I don't like that, where that's heading.
Yeah, we've done exactly the same, and screen time is down 25% or something, because you just don't think. There's a member, Sam Griffiths, is a personal trainer, but he's very different. He's well worth having a chat with. And
yes,
he talks about minuscule little changes that make huge differences. And like, he did a talk the other day, and I was just blown away, because again, we don't think of the common sense stuff. Drinking water is a prime example. Always forget to drink water, and Sam said something about it. It's in my head now, doing it all the time.
Yes.
Being able to do a squatting position, it's so good for your posture, so good for everything. It's just simple things. So phone was one of those. And the first couple of days you kind of reach for it, don't you? Because you're there, and then afterwards. Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. Sam is on my list of people to interview, so I think that would be really worthwhile.
Very much so.
But that has been so helpful, so inspiring, so honest. So thanks, Kelly, for your time and for what you've shared, and I know it will be appreciated. I'll send some comments through when they come through, because I know it will be really appreciated.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
And I'll link to your website so people know where they can find you, and to the other things you've mentioned. I'll put the links in the show notes.
Amazing, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
You can find Kelly at kellylouisewest.com, and there are links to all her social sites there, so you can follow her and track her. I hope you find some balance between all the responsibilities you've got going on in your life, and manage your time and your emotions really well, so you can live fulfilled and happy. Join me next week for more resources and inspiration for your life, and all my links and writing can be found at naomilight.com.